Now we are live, and what a week we're about to kick off here on Sportswire Radio. We teased it last night, and now we're getting right to the nitty-gritty. We're cutting to the chase, and we got a lot to talk about here, especially when it comes to KOW, one of our favorite companies around. And our man right here, we had him on a few weeks ago, and we thought some things were going to happen to lead into some big things coming up for Meltown, but I got some questions, and certainly they're going to be directed at Commissioner Steele. We're going to get to that here and much, much more. And he is doing a phenomenal job. He's quickly become one of my favorite wrestlers. You see him everywhere pretty much for the love of wrestling. You see him at Superstar Wrestling, TNT, which has become a favorite of ours lately. Of course, Wrestle Island. Can never forget about Wrestle Island and many, many more places. So without further ado here on the Sports Report, the number one Global Sports Show pro wrestling star here, the Ronan Brian Aidenson. Champ, how are we doing?
Oh, I am on cloud nine. Have that for a KOW reference as well. Wow, that's something. Can I hire you to bring you over here, please? I need you as my hype man, 100%.
ALP, he's known me a while. Everybody, listen, Sheriff Steele, Commissioner Steele, whatever he wants to be called at this point, considering his leadership and his decisions, you name them, they know me. I'd be happy to come down to Cloud 9 in the lounge, especially there in Barrow, to announce the Ronan Brian Aidenson coming up here July the 9th.
Get it booked. Get it booked.
We're going to make it happen one of these days. I've got requests everywhere, but I tell you what, I'm excited to have you because we got a lot to get into here tonight. There's a lot between stuff you've been up against recently, stuff you're going to do in the next few weeks. It's a very, very busy time for you. We're happy to be with you, but set the tables first because the Ronan Brian Aidenson, last month when we had you, we were promoting a match against you and Shawnee. And if you were going to win that match, we pretty much made it happen here with ALP, and we heard from Commissioner Steele and everybody else, whether it was Lucy, the Parts Unknown guys, that you were going to be the guy that was going to be streamlining into a showcase championship match. But last I checked, last week, I see you're facing off an old foe that we know here on Sportswire Radio and Lachlan Sharp. But set the tables for us on what went down, how it unfolded, and where we are right now when it comes to KOW.
So, we'll set the scene. So I get a text from ALP and Sheriff Steele saying, unfortunately, Shawnee's a coward and can't make the show. So I was like, right, okay, well, what are we going to do? Because, you have made a promise. Can't go back on your promise.
We had it here. We had it here that promise
exactly.
is going to unfold.
Now, listen, we've got another opponent for you. You might have trained with him, Lachlan Sharp from Future Shock.
Know him very well. Seen him in the LWF. Seen him in many places, Lachlan Sharp. Absolutely. Future Shock, like you mentioned.
Excellent wrestler. Excellent wrestler. So I was like, yeah, of course, that I'm up for the challenge because it is going to be a challenge. Not a knock on Shawnee at all, by the way. I'm not knocking his ability or anything like that at all.
Understood.
I've wrestled with Lachlan a couple of times in training and things like that.
We had him on here before he was supposed to wrestle J-Mac, John McKinney, and that feud is like legendary here over the past year. So I'm very familiar with Lachlan Sharp, no question.
Exactly. So I know exactly the caliber of wrestler he is. So when Lachlan was put forward to me, I was like, yeah, let's go. This is going to be some fight. So obviously we gets in, we does the business. I come out victorious, as I said I was going to.
You called it. You called it. You called your own shot. Didn't matter who it was. You said it, that you were going to get the job done because there was too much on the line here.
Call me Mystic Matt because the big guy's back. Do you know what I mean? It is what it is. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I turned up, I beat him, 1, 2, 3. Actually, well, tell a lie, I say 1, 2, 3. I tapped him out. But, nevertheless, still get the W.
You know what? Even better. Listen, you're trying to give Lachlan Sharp credit. A true gentleman gives credit there. And you were being a gentleman right there. Don't feel bad, my friend. You were being a true gentleman.
Too kind, sir. So, yeah, I'm on cloud 9, buzzing, happy with the win. It's like, yes, give me RPD. And then I get told that that's not how the way it goes. So I literally went backstage, took a microphone, went straight back on and went, no, I'm hijacking the show. Nothing happens until I get what I want. It's that simple. So, you know, a lot of the paying crowd were unhappy about it. I didn't really care. That's up to them. I'm not really bothered. It's fine. Because I'll wait. And I did tell them I was going to wait until I got what I wanted. And I even promised them karaoke. You know, I was going to keep them entertained. So they've got the money's worth. Do you know what I mean? I'm not a thief. I did say no, but that's not the point. But yeah, Sheriff Steele came out and went, you've got to look at the fine print. I said, you've got to beat Shawnee. So I was like, well, hang on a minute. It's not my fault that he can't be there. So why am I looking at this small print?
This sounds like, and we're disappointed to hear this, because I saw everything on social media that went down. And we love KOW. We've had on Commissioner Steele in the past. We love ALP, everybody at KOW. But this, to me, sounds like a travesty. It sounds like an injustice what happened to you, because you were promised something here. You were promised, and all of a sudden management didn't deliver on that. That is unfair. That is a true injustice.
It's uncouth. It's ungentlemanly. And I'm not like that. If I was a swearing man, I would swear. However, I do not use foul language.
We're a family station. Just like KOW's family-friendly entertainment, we are a family-friendly radio station here. So we appreciate the fact that you are a true Rhodes Scholar, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, kind sir. But yeah, if I did swear, I would have a lot of swear words to say.
And
Jack Johnson as well. I like your style too, bro.
I would not blame you for that, because clearly an injustice took place here at Cloud9 in the lounge. Because, in fact, I'll even go further, because I see we've got some people that are listening and watching here. Obviously, the GTM World Champion Jack Johnson, who's going to be in the house here Thursday night, he certainly concurs and agrees, because he has seen his own things that go down. But I even think it was more impressive of what you did, because, listen, no disrespect to Shawnee, but Lachlan Sharp is a renowned figure. He is a renowned wrestler, not only just here in our scene, but all over the world. I think that a victory over Lachlan Sharp, you could have even argued that you could have been into the World Championship picture, let alone a Showcase Championship, because Lachlan Sharp beating him is beating like a world champion. That's how impressive this victory was here.
He's internationally travelled. I mean, if I was to reference cricket, I won the Ashes. I beat the Aussies. Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry, but that's a big win. And yet it's being overshadowed, it's being cast aside. And it's like, well, come on. He's an international wrestler. A man of that pedigree, I'm sorry. And I defeated him, by the way. Clean, no cheating, because I don't agree with cheating. I don't agree with anything like that. I defeated that man clean as a whistle. I made him tap. He submitted. That's it. I defeated an absolute international, and I will go as far as to say one of the best that Future Shock has produced.
Oh, no
He's
question.
an insanely good talent.
You don't have to convince
me.
And
I beat him.
You don't have to convince me, because I watched the 2 out of 3 falls match he had with the Asset Stephen Cross a few months ago. I have seen his feud with J-Mac John McKinney. I have seen what Lachlan Sharp has done here over the past few years. There is no question, undoubtedly, a victory over Lachlan Sharp, at the very least, should put you not only in Showcase Championship contention, but I would even argue KOW Championship contention, because, let's be honest, 2-bit, very impressive against the War Machine, Craig Collins, but, I mean, he hasn't been in the ring with somebody like yourself, and he hasn't been in the ring with somebody like a Lachlan Sharp. And I've had 2-bit on here a few times. He's dangerous. He's deadly. But, my friend, you beat somebody that's just as deadly, just as dangerous in Lachlan Sharp. I cannot stress that enough here for everybody watching and listening to this on Sportzwire Radio.
Exactly. I mean, you said it yourself. I've beat someone as deadly as Lachlan Sharp. I don't know how it can be overlooked and overshadowed. So, but it's fine. I understand it, because they've got the prize asset in RPD. He's the one. You know, he's the shining light, if you will. The cherry on top of the ice cream.
For boxing term, he's the golden boy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, I'm the workhorse. I understand that. I haven't got the Hollywood good looks. I haven't got the hair. I haven't got the the rippled 6-pack, the chiseled body. But what I have is an incredible body of work in front of me, and I've got the face that matches it. My nose is a little bit crooked. My ears are a little bit cauliflowered. It's because I'm dangerous, and I do what I do, and I'm the best at what I do, which is why I beat Lachlan Sharp. give me a title shot. I think I have absolutely staked claim, as you agreed with as well. I have absolutely staked claim to a world championship.
Oh, no question about it. Listen, in my mind, as the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce, the true #1 contender at the very least for the Showcase Championship is the Ronan Brian Aidenson. I mean, with all due respect to RPD, we love RPD here. I'm not going to BS. RPD has been on here many, many times. But in my mind, the true #1 contender is undoubtedly the Ronan Brian Aidenson. If they want to put RPD into another match, if they want to put RPD into anything else, I get that. But here's why you're the #1 contender at the end of the day here. Is because, and I have a comment here, which I'm going to get to in a second, is at the end of the day, there was a promise made here. There was a promise. And that promise had to be delivered. Even if the opponent was changed, that's not to your control. That's not your fault. You had a job to do. You said you would do it, and you delivered. That's why I'm upset here. That's why I'm disappointed here. And that's why we're going to do our best here to continue to highlight that. Because, again, I think, undoubtedly, this is one of the biggest travesties in KOW in a very, very long time here. Let me get to some more comments.
I agree.
So do I. And this is Lord Damian Stone here. We know very well, obviously, from CCW. I want to make sure CCW Coverly Championship Wrestling gets a huge plug here because they have a huge event coming up next Friday, the National Colory Brawl. And I want to thank CCW for all of their support because we're going to have a CCW showdown, in a sense, here Friday night live on Sportswire Radio, 9:30 p.m. British Standard Time, because our tag team champions, our reigning defending tag team champions, of course, the Working Class Militia, will be in the house, and they will be facing off with GTM's own The Educators and the Modern Day Mafia, but we'll get to that another time. But here, Lord Damian Stone here says, Saturday was my first time visiting KOW. I'll definitely be making the coast-to-coast journey again in the future. I could definitely see Brian in the title picture in the very near future. Now, here's somebody here, just like you, relatively new to KOW, but he saw it unobjectively. He saw it without no partisan bent. He saw it here with no axe to grind, no agenda, and he's calling a spade here. And to call a spade here, the Ronan Brian Aidenson is, to many people's minds, a #1 contender, especially for that Showcase Championship.
Well, I'm going to say thank you, Damian Stone. You've clearly got good eyesight. I appreciate that, and I hope to see you again very soon.
July the 9th, Meltown, Damian Stone. July the 9th, be there.
I think, personally, what has happened is there's 3 letters that rub me up the really wrong way at the minute, and it's RP and it's D. And KOW have just got this thing where they have to protect him all the time. Why does he need protecting? He's a boxer. Did people not know that? He can fight himself. Why are people trying to protect him?
All right, let me ask you a question on that. We sort of touched upon this last time you were on. I'm going to get Lucy Simon's opinion on this tomorrow night. We're going to see where Lucy falls and all that. We got to bring it up. Listen, we got to get answers here. We're going to do our best here. I can't make promises, unlike Commissioner Steele, but I'm going to do my best to find out. I mean, do you think that is it a marketing issue? Do you think that it's not even KOW, it's maybe somebody else who's pulling the strings? Is it Cloud9 The Lounge? Is it TNT Records who's a sponsor? I mean, I'm just throwing it out here, hypothetically. And I get, listen, RPD has been a target from wrestlers. Either you love him or you hate him in certain companies. I get all that. I've covered RPD for a long time. I've covered him for a year and a half. So I get all that here. But I got to ask you, do you think it could be outside forces? Like I said, TNT Records, which is a sponsor of KOW, Cloud9 The Lounge, whoever else it might be, do you think that could have been said, you know what, to Commissioner Steele at ALP, let's pull the rug under the Ronan Brian Aidenson because of the fact, from a marketing standpoint, we need RPD to have gold because 2-Bit, as much as they like 2-Bit, they like Keenan, they may not be what the masses in Barrow want. Just throwing that out there.
I mean, you look at Keenan. He's a handsome chap. He really is. He really is a handsome chap.
I like Keenan. Yes, I do.
2-Bit, absolutely incredible wrestler, without question.
No question about it. Yep.
As far as I'm concerned, both of them deserve their titles. That's fine.
That's fair.
No issues with that whatsoever. The body of work speaks for itself. RPD is a good-looking fella. He is. He sells tickets. The reason why he sells tickets is because of his looks. It's because he owns a boxing gym and he herds everyone together, sticks them all in a van, ships them to wherever he's going, and then all of a sudden his T-shirts are just flying off the hangers. Everybody wants a piece of RPD because people want a piece of that little marketing pie that they can get a hold of.
But that goes back to TNT Records and Cloud9 in the Lounge. They look at it from a business standpoint. He's good looking. He's been a boxing champion. He's mainstream to an extent. He brings casual people. There are very few people in our scene that the masses look at and say he can have people gravitate to, and he's that guy in a sense. Some other wrestlers, with all due respect, they don't do social media like RPD does. They don't know how to get in touch with people. He's an excellent promoter. Off the record, whatever you want to call it, I've spoke with other wrestlers, and they've told me that RPD is a great promoter. He's a great self-promoter. And you have to think that, again, TNT, and I'm right now saying it's TNT Records and Cloud9 in the Lounge that are a part of this. That's what I think.
There's got to be something there because, I mean, you look at the, and I said it last time, you look at the write-up that RPD got. He's a boxing champion. He's this, that, and the other, and all these accolades. And I'm not knocking his ability whatsoever.
Yeah,
he's an
I love
athlete. He absolutely is.
Absolutely.
I respect all of his accomplishments. Don't get me wrong. I do not like the person, but the accomplishments I will respect. Now, you look at my background and everything else that I've accomplished. One of the youngest ever black belts in the UK in karate.
Well,
that just gets pushed aside.
100%.
Just gets shoved to one side. So it's like, well, where was my plethora of write-ups? Where's my biblical references and all this other good stuff that RPD got, and I just get shoved away.
Ronan Brian Aidenson, and I have a comment here from a very good friend of mine, Anthony J. Finkel, of course, who is a sponsor of Sportswire Radio, and he had his own spat with the unforgettable Andre Decker, and he says Andre Decker is going to drop RPD. It will be unforgettable, and I know what I'm talking about, yes, because there was a back and forth there with that, so clearly it seems like Anthony J. Finkel now is on the side of the unforgettable Andre Decker. But the unforgettable Andre Decker is a big man. He'll be back with us. But right now, this is about the Ronan Brian Aidenson. We'll talk about Andre Decker another time. He's been on here many, many times at this point. He'll be back on.
Lovely guy, Andre Decker, as well. Lovely guy.
We have an interesting history. I think that deep down, he's come on so many times at this point. If he'd be lying if he said he doesn't like coming on. He'd be lying. He's been on probably more times than like my family at this point on the radio. So obviously, that's here nor there. But here's to me what it comes down to. And again, this is why I'm really disappointed about this. Because to me, I see KOW and we had a promise. We had a deal. You won. And usually what happens in wrestling here, you get what you're supposed to get. RPD, if he wants to square off in a match against anybody, would love to promote it. But I think at the end of the day, this is about outside forces, not about you. Because at the end of the day, what you look at this has to be, because again, why wouldn't we want to see you in a championship? Listen, you and Keenan would tear the house down. Look at your background over the past several years in wrestling. You've been on countless podcasts. You've been in the ring with countless people. We've spoke about some of those people. We're going to speak about some of those people in a little while, even in the Rumble itself when it comes to the asset Stephen Cross, a guy a little similar than you. I mean, so there's a lot that we're going to get into here over the next 45 minutes to an hour. But to me, it just has to be outside forces are at hand here who made this, to me, disappointing decision.
I mean, promises are easily broken, but so are limbs. So I can't wait to send it to the next show because something monumental has to happen. If I don't get RPD or I don't get me title shots that I've asked for, something has to give. There has to be something monumental.
Let me ask you something. When it comes, I want to ask you this question. I don't know if this was a topic or not, but you won your match Saturday night, correct? Mm-hmm. When you went back to the locker room and you didn't get what was promised here, because let's cut to the chase. I know almost the entire locker room in KOW. I know that they listen. I'm going to throw a pipe bomb out here. I know a lot of these companies. I get wind of that they listen to when I talk. They listen when people come on. So I know what's going on too inside. I'm not going to say I'm a wrestler. I'm not going to say I was in the dressing room. Obviously, I'm across the other side of the pond. But what I will ask you, you can say whatever you want, feel free. But when you went back to that locker room, what was the reaction toward the fact that you didn't get that showcase #1 contendership? What was the mentality and the mindset in that locker room?
I didn't see a lot of people in there, to be fair. I think the people that I did see were quiet. Maybe they're a little bit intimidated. Not entirely sure. It doesn't interest me either, to be completely honest. I wanted everyone to stay out of my way because obviously I was hot about it.
But there wasn't anybody in the locker room.
I'm not going to be happy.
But without revealing names, there wasn't anybody in the locker room who said, you know what, the Ronan Brian Aidenson, I heard you on Sportswire Radio. I heard Commissioner Steele. I heard ALP. You would have won your match. You would be a #1 contender for the Showcase Championship. There wasn't somebody, again, don't say names. Don't say anybody. Could be whatever you want. But was there anybody that said, you know what, I agree, what happened? Or just questions?
I'll put it to you this way. A couple of people were relieved about what had gone down. And a couple of people were on my side. Now, I'm not going to divulge names or anything like that, but let me just say a couple of people were relieved that, other events had transpired, shall we say.
Okay, well, I have a comment from somebody who I know you're going to get riled up for, and it is good publicity. It is good radio. You might have an inkling who this individual is because certainly you know him very well. You probably do, right? So you probably know us by now. So this individual is obviously the natural-born fighter, R.P. Davis. And he says here, tell him to take my name out of his fill-in-the-blanks mouth. I'm not a hard man to find. So, I mean, he's obviously here with us. I mean, to be fair. You know what? I should even throw it out there. I can't believe I'm going to say this here to Ronan Brian Aidenson. I'm going to throw this out here because I know that the natural-born fighter, R.P. Davis, is listening. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to do something here that's going to try to keep everybody happy. I'm going to be what's called a mediator. I'm going to be as unbiased as I can because I like you both. Let's say this. Before July the 9th at Meltown for KOW, I'll throw it out here because I'm the host of the Sports Report and the station manager. You have Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce, and we can do this here. For the people who are KOW fans, fans of RPD, fans of the Ronan Brian Aidenson, I'll have an open invite before the event. The Ronan Brian Aidenson, natural-born fighter, R.P. Davis, face-to-face here live. What do you say?
I'm game. I'm not a chicken.
All right, well, then that leaves the natural-born fighter, R.P. Davis. You guys can pick the time. Pick the day, pick the place, and we'll make it happen. And we'll let you guys talk about what's going on here. Talk about why we aren't having a match that you were supposed to get and why the natural-born fighter, R.P. Davis, is making his case that he's got your number. I mean, so we'll make that case here, and we'll let people decide whose side they're on. So the natural-born fighter, R.P. Davis, if you want it, the Ronan Brian Aidenson wants it, let's make it happen. If Commissioner Steele and ALP, if they can't quite make that decision because their hands might be tied behind their backs when it comes to outside forces, we'll do it here on Sportswire Radio.
Yeah, I think that's the fairest way to do it.
This was not planned. This is a pipe bomb. You want to call it a shoot, whatever you want to call it here. This was not planned. We didn't go before we went on the air. Said, you know what, the Ronan Brian Aidenson, let's talk about RPD. Let's find a way to get him to come live one day before July the 9th and get everybody face to face. No, we didn't plan it that way. We're just going off the top, off the cuff, just shooting here because you know what? Maybe the people want that. So I'll let the natural-born fighter, R.P. Davis, speak for himself. If he wants it, we'll make it happen.
I find his statement ironic, though. The fact that he said, I'm not a hard man to find, and yet when I went to the locker room, he was nowhere to be seen. His bags weren't even there, so I don't quite understand that. But, whatever.
Why do you think that's a good point. Let's talk about that. Why do you think that was? Do you think – let me ask you a question because I hate to do this, but – you have heard tales, obviously, of wrestlers having their own locker rooms. Did RPD have his own dressing room? Was that the case?
Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, he's the golden boy. He's the asset, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? He's the top ticket seller. He's this, that, and the other, with a cherry on top and all this sort of good stuff. And yeah, he probably has got his own dressing room. I'm getting changed in a dingy toilet. Like, yeah, cheers. But it's fine. It's all right. I'll work my way up to the top. No problem.
Oh, and we know that you're going to definitely work your way up to the top. And of course, if you like what you hear from the Ronan Brian Aidenson, I cannot stress this enough. You most certainly need to follow him on Twitter, on Instagram. Certainly like his page, also on Facebook as well, because I can promise you're going to definitely want to do it. It's Brian Aidenson 1. That's on Twitter. So make sure you do that on Twitter. One more time. It's Brian Aidenson 1. Very simple. All you have to do is first name, last name, just with the 1. Very simple. And then on Instagram, it's Brian Aidenson. Also on Facebook, like his page. Got almost 500 followers on Facebook. So we definitely want to make sure we get a few more followers from him. Also, KOW. Certainly, if you want to grieve your injustices, your disappointments, and complaints about what's going on here in terms of managerial decisions, you can definitely follow KOW on Facebook, Knockout W, K_O_wrestling on Instagram, Twitter, KO_wrestling, because these are things that we're going to continue to talk about here. Tomorrow night, Lucy Simons is on. We'll see what Lucy thinks. I'm sure ALP himself will be on. ALP has always come on here. Listen, I'll even ask the unforgettable Andre Decker when he's back on here in a few weeks. I'll find out. I'll do whatever I can, because that's what we do here. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportzwire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. And I want to continue for a few more minutes on this match and the situation. We'll get to some other things with you, because there are some other things I want to talk about here, the Ronan Brian Aidenson. But let me ask you this question. I'm going to throw this out there. I don't even know what's in the mind of the current Showcase champion, or even in the underclass right now. But do you think that Keenan would want to face you?
It's hard to say, really. It's hard to say. I mean, I'm 2-0 in KO. I've got a lot of momentum. Do you know what I mean?
You're undefeated in my book. I've
got a lot of momentum. I'm undefeated. I'm, arguably one of the most dangerous on the roster. So, who's to say? If it was ever to come, I'll gladly take it. Not a problem. But would he want to? I'm not so sure.
Now, before I get to Lucy Simons, who's going to be with us 8:30 p.m. live here, British Standard Time tomorrow night. So we'll get Lucy's side of things. So we're going to announce that here. And, of course, you can definitely follow Lucy. Also, Lucy Sim 1 on Instagram. Also, like her new page. Well, we want to find out more KOW information. I definitely want to follow, because we want to get to the bottom of this. But I almost have to ask it. I mean, I'm going to throw it out there because you weren't sure about Keenan. I see Lucy's comment here. I saw that eye roll. But in your vantage point, do you think from Keenan's standpoint, again, I don't know how well you know Keenan. I don't know the relationship there. I know Keenan, but I don't know him that well. Do you think that Keenan, in his mind, maybe he even, I'll even throw it out there. I have no idea, because I know there's a strange relationship between the underclass and management. They really don't get along. But do you think there's a possibility even that Keenan would rather face RPD than you? He sees RPD as more beatable. I'm going to throw that out there. Do you see that?
I'm not sure, I think, to be honest, and I will give respect to RPD for this, he is dangerous. It only takes one punch, and, he has got that one punch in the locker, so who's to say? I think, to be honest, I think I'm the more dangerous one out of the two. I mean, as much as I've got fists, I've got feet, I've got brains. Do you know what I mean? So maybe I'm the more dangerous option. However, that being said, everyone's got a puncher's chance. On a mathematical basis, I would say maybe you're right. RPD is probably the easier choice to go with Keenan. But again, a lot of wrestling depends on the night. It depends on your preparation before the fight and everything else. So who's to say? If Keenan's on absolutely peak form, maybe he could beat RPD. I mean, I doubt he'd beat me, but that's a different story. But maybe
you're not getting that chance right now. But to be fair, we don't know. Listen, I couldn't tell you who's going to win between Keenan and the Ronan Brian Aidenson. Obviously, I expect you to win, but we don't have that opportunity. We don't get to see that right now in KOW.
Maybe we'll never know. Maybe we'll never know because of management again.
It's a judgment call. Let me throw this out there, and again, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I can't believe I'm really trying to get the bottom of this for you, and frankly for some in KOW, and that's really.
I'm glad someone is. I appreciate that. I'm glad someone is.
Well, we know what's best for business, but let me throw this out here. Even, you know what? Let's try to keep everybody happy. Let's try to keep everybody on the same page. Let me throw this out there because this would be maybe a happy medium. You tell me what your thoughts are on this, because obviously we just saw Keenan retain in a fatal four-way, right? We saw him retain in a fatal four-way match on Saturday. Why not then, since you were promised your title shot for that championship, it's going to be July the 9th, Meltdown at KOW. Again, you can do whatever you want. Management can hear this. They can obviously read between the lines. Keenan, our current showcase champion, against the natural born fighter, R.P. Davis, to be fair, does hold a victory over the Cumbrian outlaw Rick Marcus. And the Cumbrian outlaw Rick Marcus, I've said it here before, he is on the Mount Rushmore of KOW. He was simultaneously a showcase and a world champion here. He's the man that retired, then Sheriff Steele. So you got to give him his due on that. He's got a huge victory over Rick Marcus. And Rick Marcus, it appears, it seems to be the end of his time in KOW. So that's here nor there. But let's go with it then. Keenan, showcase champion against the natural born fighter, R.P. Davis, and the Ronan, Brian Aidenson, July the 9th, Meltdown, triple threat showcase championship. Would that be a happy medium for you?
No.
Tell me why no. Tell me why.
I'll tell you for why. So, let's put it this way. So, RPD doesn't want to fight me, let's be honest. Doesn't want it. Keenan and RPD together will outnumber me. It's 2-on-1. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not an accomplished fighter. They will team up.
You think 100%. So? You really do? You think that 2-bit? You sure you think that 2-bit and Andre Decker and Logan would allow that, and Jennifer? You think that they would allow them to team up with RPD to beat you? You really think so?
It's a game of chess. If I'm the most dangerous piece on the board, you put two that aren't as dangerous together, take the big one out, and then you can isolate RPD on his own. The underclass will retain. It's smart. It's a good tactic.
I don't know though if 2-bit would say, you know what, to Keenan, I think because 2-bit I don't think is a fan of RPD. I think he's less of a fan of RPD than you. Yes, he knows you're dangerous. Yes, he knows that you could get the championship and will win that championship. But I think 2-bit is still at the end of the day a calculated leader, and I think he in his mind knows that RPD is the opposite of what the underclass are. I don't know though if I could still see Keenan and RPD teaming up against you. That's the way. I could be wrong.
If he's calculated, which he is, then he'll have already assessed the risk. He already has assessed the risk.
Let's go though on a calculation, and we'll transition here in a minute or two because I realize we're spending a lot of time on this, and this is not something we expected. We expected to just spend a few minutes on this big win to get us ready for July 9th, to get you ready to have gold on your waist that you deserve. But that's here nor there. We're going to try to find out here. Answers, listen, we're going to certainly find out here between now and July the 9th. We've got plenty of time here on Sportswire Radio. But if my calculated option here, the Ronan Brian Aidenson, is no showcase championship at all, which right now we have no championship match right now, July 9th. Or my option would be triple threat, RPD, Keenan, and you still wouldn't take that championship shot? You still wouldn't take it?
Oh, I'd take it. I would take it 100%, but is it best for me? Probably not, no.
Understood, and I understand that you were promised.
Would be much better.
100%. 100%. I agree with you. And you were promised something that you weren't given. But clearly, I think, in my opinion, again, we'll find that out between now and July the 9th, but I feel that powers that be have their hands tied between you and being in that match. That to me, and I'm going to put the blame on TNT Records and Cloud9 in the Lounge, they see RPD as marketable. They see right now, they have a problem. Here's what it comes down to. They have a problem in two fronts right now in KOW. Here's the problems. You're part of the problem, but the larger problem right now is the underclass aren't marketable. Right now, Keenan and 2-bit, for their standpoint, for selling tickets, getting followers on social media, getting people to buy merchandise at the stands, autographs with the wrestlers, they see 2-bit and they see Keenan is not the people that they can invest in to keep this company growing, to keep this company afloat, to keep this company from going from a 10-year anniversary to a 20-year anniversary. And that's why they see they have to interject the natural-born fighter, R.P. Davis, in here. I don't think it's ALP even in Commissioner Steele's fault. I think it's more about those that support KOW and sponsor because, let's be real, you and I both know this. You've been wrestling a long time in the scene. I've been covering this stuff for 3.5 years. All right, I cover all types of things. It sometimes can be outside forces, just like WWE Network has sponsors, television sponsors, and advertisers. KOW has sponsors that allows them to continue to do what they do best, and that's where I think it could be here. Why we're not seeing you against Keenan July the 9th.
I think you're dead right. I think they're trying to protect their asset. I think they don't see me as marketable for whatever reason. I mean, I'm not a pretty boy, and I don't ever want to be.
RPD loves the kids. He loves the fans. He's got a young family. They see you. You know, you're a rugged, tough guy. You got the tattoos, the martial arts background. You're a veteran. You know, Rick Marcus had the same problem. Listen, the underclass have had that problem. There are wrestlers that have that problem. Thug Life Taylor West has had that problem. I mean, there are certain wrestlers. Now, obviously, look, I love RPD. I've had him on here a million times. I'd be BSing you if I said I didn't like the natural born fighter RP Davis. Many people from KOW have come on this show. I'm not going to sugarcoat that, and I'm not going to BS you on that. But I'm going to call spade a spade, and I'm going to be objective, because that's what you're supposed to do here on Sportswire Radio. That's why we're number one. And the fact that I think is because the masses don't see you as the marketable person they can lead KOW in for the next several years. And they have a problem right now with the underclass. They have a big problem. And RPD, they see as the guy that could potentially be that person that could help KOW blast off into the next decade.
I think personally, the way they're looking at it is they know if I get that title shot, I'll take the title. Who's going to take it off me?
You know what? Looking at this roster, looking at the roster up and down the list, I mean, Freak Show have their hands full. They're the tag team champions still, right? So they're off the list, right? Certainly, the War Machine, Craig Collins, couldn't even beat 2-Bit. If you beat 2-Bit for the World Championship, he ain't beating you. You got Taylor West, Thug Life. I mean, he ain't beating you, even though he's had a lot of success. Shawnee didn't even show up. I mean, Rick Marcus is gone. Rick Marcus would have been a perfect opponent for you, but he's gone, right? I mean, I don't know on that roster currently, looking up and down. Dynamite Lee Dawson, he couldn't beat Keenan. I mean, Big Guns Joe, I mean, I don't know on the roster right now who could go in the ring and have the kind of match with the Ronan Brian Aidenson, because if Lachlan Sharp couldn't do it, and he's a guy that's kind of toe-to-toe with you, I really don't know right now. I don't know. I don't have the answer.
This is the thing. I'm a headache. I'm a headache to KO, and I know exactly why. It's because I'm good at what I do. That's it. That's why I get paid good money from KO Wrestling, because I'm really good at what I do.
Well, I'll tell you what. We understand
it's
business.
simple. I have a headache.
Listen, we understand business here on Sportswire Radio, and I'm going to say, at the very least, triple threat match for the KOW Showcase Championship. And like I said here, I'm going on the record and saying it, before July the 9th, Meltdown, the next KOW event. Ronan Brian Aidenson here live. The Natural Born Fighter, RP Davis, here live. Let's talk it out. Let's see mano-a-mano, face-to-face. Let's see what happens. Let's give the people what they want. Let's think about it here. Let's make people think who really should be the person to lead KOW. Who really should be that person that they can get behind for KOW. That's the way I see it here. And these are reasons why also, if you like what you hear from Sportswire Radio, do give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. And 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player. If you're like me, of course, you can follow me on Instagram at the Sports Report 2021. You can also follow me on Twitter at Thomas Price 2017. And we are talking all things related here to KOW and more with the Ronan Brian Aidenson coming off a decisive victory. And get this, we're going to talk about here in a second. He was in the ring twice. You'll find me a wrestler this past weekend that did what the Ronan Brian Aidenson did. Roman Reigns didn't do it. Brock Lesnar certainly didn't do it. Edge didn't do it. Bryan Danielson didn't do it. I mean, you name me a wrestler, they didn't do. Cody Rhodes didn't do it. I mean, all these guys would say, you got to pay me 10 million pounds before I do 2 matches in one day. This guy here did not only 2 matches, but 2 great matches. Listen, if Dave Meltzer was here, he'd give him a 5 out of 5, because this guy is clearly one of the guys that we want. Listen, and they ask me all the time, talk to WWE guys, talk to AEW guys, talk to Impact guys. You know what I tell them? Out of town. Get out of town. We want real wrestlers here. We want the guys that go out there and do it because they can do it, and they do a damn good job at it. And the Ronan Brian Aidenson is that person. And transitioning here, I mean, you got to talk to us about the other match here that you were in Saturday, because that was definitely a match a lot of people were talking about here.
Oh, yeah. It was against Jack MV at the Superstar in Liverpool. Yeah, that was a hard match. We, I think in the first 2 minutes we slapped each other about 8 times. So yeah, it was physical. But yeah, I mean,
the picture that Mustafa Khan posted I think it was a few months ago on Instagram, where one of the wrestlers he chopped, and the back of the guy he was chopping, it was literally looked like when you go and go to the supermarket and buy ground meat. It was or a steak. It looked like that's what it looked like.
Just horrible.
Yeah.
Just raw meat. But yeah, to go from Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool to Barrow is 2 and a bit hours. So to have a really physical match, and then sit in a car for 2 hours, to then go and have another physical match. You know what I mean? That was a long day in the office. It was a good day in the office, don't get me wrong, because I'm always up for throwing my boots on and fighting anyone. I think I more than proved that on Saturday. But yeah, that 2 really good competitors in Jack MV and Lachlan Sharp. 2 wins for me as well, so, not to brag, but...
Hey, as Queen would say, another one bites the dust. But you said something interesting, and I want to ask you this question, because I see people on Facebook that are from America that are liking this here, and I want to acknowledge some of those people, and some of those people who've been guests on the show or friends of mine. They don't understand what you just said, and the fact that you wrestled a match and had to drive 2.5 hours to Barrow, and you had to drive back home, which is, I'm sure, it's more than a 2.5 hour commute. So walk me through how difficult that is to be able to go through a day like that, where you're wrestling in Liverpool, then you go to Barrow, and then you eventually have to go home. I mean, you're in the ring far less than you're in the car. I mean, talk to me about that day and how mentally just grueling that is, and challenging for sure.
So I was up at 7:30 in the morning, got a little workout in, had some breakfast, had a quick wash and stuff like that, then double-checked my bag, because I always have to double-check my bag, just in case I've missed anything, because my nightmare as a wrestler is I get to a show and I've got 1 kick pad, or I've left me trunks that I need, or something like that.
You always got to be prepared.
Exactly. So triple check my bag, then load the car up, and then we're off. So I'll drive from my house to Liverpool, which takes about an hour. Then I'll get to Liverpool, warm up, make sure I'm ready for the match, go and have the match, try and cool off a little bit, try and eat something. Usually it's something I've prepared, if like the night before. If it's not, then it's something on the road. Then it's 2.5 hours in the car. It would have been a lot quicker if an engine didn't blow out on the M6, which is like a motorway or a freeway. So someone's car engine blew up, so that delayed proceedings a little bit. But so I get there, I'm tired and sore, so I've got to re-stretch out again, and then have another match, and then drive home, which is fun.
Not easy. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, you really have to know your stuff. I mean, you ever get lost driving? I gotta ask, you ever get lost on the road out there?
Yeah, this is why I religiously use Google Maps on my phone, because if it's not for that, I'm taking turns everywhere, and I'm not going to get in until after o'clock in the morning. But yeah, Google Maps is a saviour.
I could definitely see that here, and also speak to me about something else that you were a part of, because I'm sure you heard the clip a few weeks back, and it was certainly my understanding that you were For the Love of Wrestling and a part of that huge, huge rumble. In fact, I was actually watching some of the convention from that day, because I saw it on YouTube, separate conversation, but the New Age Outlaws were there. They were being interviewed, and Chris Brooker, obviously, huge shout out to him, because he was a huge part of that event. But that was for another time. I want to talk about the fact that you were actually in a battle rumble with somebody I know very well, who's on here each and every week, and who I think is very similar to you in many ways. That is the Asset Stephen Cross. So talk to me about what it was like trading some punches with the Asset Stephen Cross, because he had a lot to say, and I'm sure you've got something to say now.
I thought you were going to mention them 3 letters, and I was like, I'm not interested. But we mentioned Stephen Cross, so it's all good.
Okay, all right. Well, let's see about Stephen Cross, because Stephen Cross is a very good friend. He's on each and every weekend. He's had his own injustices, by the way, in the LWF. I mean, you want to talk about some guy that's had some injustices, and he's also been in the ring with Lachlan Sharp. So you have a lot of similarities there. But walk me through that Rumble. What was that like in being with Stephen Cross?
Well, to peel it back a little bit, I got the call a couple of days prior to the event from Sam Bailey, head trainer at Future Shock. Hello, Sam. And yeah, I was I was buzzing. I was like, yeah, I can't wait to do it. So obviously it gets there with my bag, and it is enormous. I didn't realise how big it was. Only later, when I got home, did I find out it's Europe's biggest wrestling convention. So that was even like mind-blown stuff. So anyway, it's Rumble time. I'm walking out. Yeah, seeing Stephen Cross, I was like, okay, he's someone I've not fought before. Let's get into it with him. Oh my God, he hits like a freight train. Like, wow. Wow. I was like, I mean, I've been hit pretty hard before. And I was like, yeah, okay, I can roll with this. I remember kicking him, and it just hurt. Like, it hurt me. I mean, I wear like top end kick pads, and the pain just shot right the way through him. I was like, what am I kicking here? He's literally made out of steel. He's got to be, because it shouldn't hurt that much. But yeah, we traded some blows, and I need to have a match with Stephen Cross. He's seriously good. But yeah,
and you know what? And I gotta say,
very tough.
I was gonna say about the asset Stephen Cross. It's him and the Cumbrian Outlaw Rick Marcus. If I put them together, they still don't have any body fat. If I put them together, it would still equal to no body fat.
It's ridiculous. I look at a pizza and I've put on a pound. It's like it's ridiculous. Like, they've got some seriously great rigs. And
every time I see the asset Stephen Cross on Instagram, his story, he's always at the gym. I mean, I don't know how he does it. He's literally every single moment I see on Instagram, he's at the gym. I mean, listen, you're in phenomenal shape. Everybody else is in phenomenal shape, but they're on like a whole new level. I mean, like, maybe that's maybe that's who should be in KOW to give you a worthy opponent. Because you know what? The asset Stephen Cross and you would be a dream match, because that would be the match between the asset Stephen Cross and his technical skills, your abilities, between your martial arts background, just how hard you hit. I mean, that would honestly, that might be like the most stiffest match we'd see the entire year in professional wrestling. I mean, that would be a match coming out of it. It would almost be like a war. It would literally be, forget about Russia and Ukraine, you and the asset Stephen Cross. I mean, that would be literally like 2 wars put together, just between how you guys go into the ring, your both approaches, your sheer physicalness. I mean, that would be a match that almost like, I don't think you guys would be the same after even.
I'd be well up for it as well. I've trained with Stephen Cross a couple of times as well, and
he's been big there at the Future Shock Performance Center.
Seriously good.
He's really, and you know, he was another guy that in the LWF, they wouldn't give him a match for months. For months, they wouldn't give him a match. Here's a guy that was in phenomenal shape, showing up every time to training sessions, every time going out of his way to Future Shock. He was pretty much doing everything he could to get in the ring, and it finally took them months to get him in the ring, and since then, it's almost, you can't get him out. And even then, they still try to screw him. They still try to give him injustices. We're going to talk with him for sure about a lot of that Friday night. We're going to certainly also talk tomorrow night with somebody he was in the ring with from the LW. That is the Los Lancadores, the Masked Marauder, Disfrazada, and Mysterious Mr. B. So we're going to get their side of the story on things for sure. And I'm sure the asset Stephen Cross will definitely opine about that, all of it tomorrow night, and certainly Friday for the asset Stephen Cross. I mean, anything else of note when it came to the Future Shock or the For the Love of Wrestling event there that was kind of maybe of note that you wanted to share? Anything that comes to mind?
Well, if Stephen Cross wants a tag partner, just tell him to hit me up. My DMs are open to him and him alone. Him alone.
I'll ask him Friday night. Listen, I'll ask it to him Friday night here. I'll make sure he finds out, and I'll ask it to him straight up.
That'd be one of the stiffest tag teams going, though, I think. That'd be some tag team, that I think.
Forget about the APA. Forget about the Nasty Boys. Forget about Public Enemy and their run. Forget about the Dudleys and their heyday. I mean, could you have imagined the Ronan Brian Aidenson and the Acid Stephen Cross? I mean, between a Ronan and an Aidenson, an asset, it's almost like a rock at a hard place you'd be in. If I would not want to be one of those opponents, to say the least. And talk to me about some other places we're going to see you in the ring between now and the next few weeks.
So you're going to see me at Barracks Pro Wrestling very soon against the Barracks Pro Wrestling champion, Jack Knudsen, who is an incredible technical wrestler. Easily one of the best in the country. So it's a big opportunity for me to face him. Very much looking forward to that. We've got Superstar coming up again relatively soon. I think that might be July 9th as well. You're going to see me, obviously, again in Knockout.
So you're doing double duty again on July 9th?
Glutton for punishment, apparently. But yeah, I'll be doing that. Wrestle Island.
Listen, KOW has to run a show where it's not on another place you're being booked. So we can just see you and get the full throttle version of the Ronan Brian Aidenson. We have to. I'll ask Lucy about that tomorrow night. I'm going to ask. You have my word on that.
Oh, don't ask Lisa Simpson about that. She's buffoon. Absolute buffoon. Why have they employed her? No, they should be employing you.
I'd love to be there. Listen, I'd love to be a KOW. I would love to be there.
You talk sense.
I tell you what, I'd certainly love to be there with you. I'd love to make sure that the injustices are corrected. I'd love to see things much more fair and balanced and down the line, because there is a legitimate point there. Also, walk me through Wrestle Island's coming up here. I know next weekend. Talk to me about Wrestle, because Wrestle Island, we know from the Playboy Prince Lance Rivera, he's going to be on the card. But walk me through what you're going to be doing, because you're going to be a part of some big things, I know.
Oh yeah, well, not to forget TNT as well. They've got a massive show coming up this weekend. That card is ridiculous. So I might have to pay a little visit and see that show. But also, yeah, Wrestle Island, I've got a match with Hustle Malone.
We know Hustle Malone very well.
Yeah, he's an incredible talent.
Absolutely.
Someone who's rubbed me up the wrong way as well, Hustle Malone. So I'm looking to get a little bit of redemption back on him as well. And it pains me to say as well, I was this close to owning the power-up briefcase at Wrestle Island, and he'd slid through and kicked me in the face and pinched it off me. Slid through the ring, and yeah, I am gonna leather him in this next match that we've got. Just to, this has been like a couple of months worth of ill will, shall we say, and tension that has been harbouring since that day. So yeah, I'm going to unleash hell on him in a Disney Plus death match, which I believe as well is the first ever Disney Plus death match in existence. So this is a first time ever, and yeah, I'm going to whack him with every lightsaber that I can possibly get my hands on.
It's certainly going to be, I guess, a Disney Plus subscription-like match. So certainly forget about having a subscription to Disney Plus. You can watch this match, and I have a good feeling that you're going to get your money's worth, and hopefully we see the Ronan Brian Aidenson turn around here and give us what the people want, and making sure that he comes out of this safely and soundly. So, I mean, we spoke about this last time we were on the air here with you, so we're excited about all of that here. And we were speaking for about 15 or so minutes with the Ronan Brian Aidenson. Obviously, he's doing a great job. And if you like what you hear, again, I can't stress this enough here. But those that are watching and listening to this, or we'll watch this tomorrow when it's on replay or throughout all my social media channels. Or now, if you're listening on sportnarium.com/player, please give the Ronan Brian Aidenson a follow on Instagram at Brian Aidenson. Twitter, Brian Aidenson1. Also like his Facebook page. Also, make sure you do that because he's almost at 500 followers. Let's get him a few more followers. Let's get everybody a few more followers here, because all kidding aside here, what these guys do here in professional wrestling, with our British wrestlers, our UK wrestling scene, to me, I think it's the best wrestling scene around. I think what these guys and gals do, it's unbelievable. It's incredible what they do. They really are what wrestling is about. I mean, forget it. I know everyone's going to talk about WWE and all these stuff, but you know what? For me, people ask me all the time, what do you like about pro wrestling? I say, I love the Ronan Brian Aidenson. I love Jack Johnson, who was in the house, which was the GTM world champion. Bentley, who was on last week. Even the natural born fighter, R.P. Davis, the Cumbrian outlaw, Rick Marcus, Andre Decker, I mean, the modern day mafia, the working class militia, the educators. I mean, it's a long list of people. Even the Los Lancadors, Balachius, Wildfire. I mean, it's a long list of people. But this is what you need to be following. This is what you need to like. So these are all things that we're going to look forward to continue to speak about here throughout the week. We've got about 15 or so minutes here on Sportswire Radio. And I want to ask you this question here, the Ronan Brian Aidenson. I'm going to go back to KOW to get final thoughts here and everything else here. And I'm going to throw this out here. And what do you want to say directly to ALP and Commissioner Steele? Your words to them right now.
I hope they're watching. I really hope they're watching. What I want to say to him, see, there's a lot I could say. I understand it's a family show, so there's a lot of things I'm not going to say. For I'm respectful like that, and what I will say is that you can't dangle a carrot in front of someone and expect them to just keep chasing it. So you've promised me an opportunity and then you've pulled it away. Then you promised me it again, and then so there's going to be a point at some point where I don't like to be pushed, and I feel like you're trying to push me. So don't push me too hard, because I'll just go and sort business out myself. If it means me holding up the show again, no problem. But I can do a lot worse than that. And I don't want to be making threats or anything like that, because that's not what I'm about. I'm professional. However, don't keep making promises that you can't keep, because that's not fair. And then I will have to do something about it.
Ooh, ladies and gentlemen, very, very strong words here. Something tells me here that Commissioner Steele and ALP will be forced to respond. They're going to have to anyway, because today is May the 16th, and July 9th ain't that far from now. So we're going to certainly, I'm sure, hear something from them. And we saw the back and forth that you had with Commissioner Steele also after the match went down on social media, and I'm sure we're going to see more of that here. Also, Lucy Simons will be here tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. British Standard Time, where we'll get more from her and see what she thinks, and certainly we'll try to continue to parcel all this here also. And I'm sure the natural-born fighter, R.P. Davis, is going to have to respond to what we've put on the table here before July 9th. The Ronan Brian Aidenson here, also with the natural-born fighter, R.P. Davis, face-to-face here. But I also want to ask you this question related to the natural-born fighter, R.P. Davis. Give me a word or two that you want to say to him, because I know he's watching, he's listening. Obviously, we see he, for now, is the showcase #1 contender. But arguably, we know who should be that #1 showcase contender. So I'm going to give you the floor here, the Ronan Brian Aidenson, and you can address the natural-born fighter, R.P. Davis. Say anything you want to him, because the floor is yours, and he's not here right now.
I don't even have to say anything. All I have to do is smile like this. Just give him my little smile. Because I'm living in his head rent-free, and he knows it, because everything that he's doing, even when he's on social media, whether he's putting his posts out or he's talking to promoters and stuff, I'm in his rearview mirror, and he's constantly looking down that rearview mirror, worrying where I'm going to show up. He's not focused enough. He did beat Rick, yeah, that's fair. He did beat Rick. I'm not going to take that away from him. He's a bit sheepish, though. That's all I can say on that.
Those are very, very strong words here. And something tells me here that we haven't heard the last of this by a long shot between the natural-born fighter, R.P. Davis, and the Ronan Brian Aidenson. And something tells me here you could be seeing this on a screen near you on Sportswire Radio. But before we get closing thoughts here, and I know you're a very busy man, you got a lot on your plate, you've got matches to get ready for, you've got RPD's decision to await when it comes to him coming here, and obviously management from KOW, and certainly the powers that be that may or not had an influence in this decision. I want to also ask you, and what did this weekend mean to you in the fact that you got to wrestle to some places, meet some people? Overall, kind of going back off the tweet that you had earlier, what did this weekend mean to you?
A lot, to be honest. To peel back the curtain a little bit, Mental health is something massive to me, and it shouldn't just be massive to me, it should be massive to everyone. And
absolutely. This is May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Exactly. And I think when you do something that you care and you're passionate about, you try and put a lot of effort into it. And wrestling has been my release for a lot of my mental health issues and stuff like that. So to be constantly working hard at what it is I do, and then having friends that I've had for donkey's years, and then friends that I've met in the business, family, loved ones, everyone who's showing all this support, it does mean a hell of a lot. And I just want to say thank you to all them. It's more of it's me pulling back the curtain a little bit and saying thank you. I'm not always a hard ass, and I'm not always Mr. Nasty. I have got a nice side.
We thought you came on the first time, and we thought that was going to lead into you being the number one contender for the very least the Showcase Championship. We saw that side. We saw that respect that you had with Commissioner Steele. That's why we're so confused by this here, because it seemed like everybody was on the same page. That's why I'm perplexed.
They pulled the rug. But yeah, to go back to it, it's just a thank you for everyone showing the support. I wish I did have the same support from Commissioner Steele, but that's another question. So, yeah. I hope they are watching, by the way, because that has, left a sour taste, shall we say.
Oh, I have a feeling that somebody's going to watch, somebody's going to listen, because that happens all the time here on Sportswire Radio. So I have no doubt about that. It is going to be a very, very, very big week here on Sportswire Radio. So this is going to be a week that you're going to definitely want to buckle up, because we have wrestlers coming on. We have wrestlers facing off with each other, and we're waiting for RPD on our announcement here to have him and the Ronan Brian Aidenson face-to-face. So it's going to be a very, very big week, and a very next big several weeks ahead here on Sportswire, because we are talking so many companies: KOW, the LWF, Odyssey Pro Wrestling, GTM, CCW. There's more companies in the pike that we're working with. We'll announce that toward the later of the week. Also some guests as well coming on for the first time. So a lot to get into here. Very, very excited about all that. But for you, my friend, I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, anything you want to share. And I can't thank you enough. And I'm looking forward to having you on here now before July the 9th, now that we announced it here before Meltdown. So RPD, you're on the clock. But I turn it over to you. I give you the floor. Anything you want to plug, and fire away, my friend.
Just get onto my social medias. There'll be plenty of announcements about where I'm going to be, because my calendar constantly fluctuates. So, I will be here, there, and everywhere. I'll be at, you name it. I'm trying to get out as many different places as I can as well. So, follow all my socials and stay tuned, because there's a lot more places that I'm going to be popping up, and we'll see you at these shows very soon.
Looking forward to all of that here. Of course, a lot to get into here. A lot of exciting things are planned here. Also for the Ronan Brian Aidenson. Again, follow him on Twitter, Brian Aidenson 1. Instagram, Brian Aidenson. Also Facebook, like his page. Because I'm telling you, this is a guy you're going to be seeing a lot more from. And we're certainly hoping that he's going to get some gold here in the near and distant future. So for you, my friend, I know you're a busy man. I can't thank you enough for all that you're doing for us. I'm looking forward to having you on here soon with the Natural Born Fighter, RP Davis. And we're going to certainly do our best to get to the bottom of this injustice, this grave injustice here that happened to you this past weekend at KOW's Cloud9 The Lounge.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm just waiting for the golden boy to get back now.
Oh, I'm sure we'll be hearing from him. Something tells me here, as he said, he's not a hard man to find, and something tells me here that he'll be here with us. He may not be right now, but I have a feeling we'll make it work. We'll get all camps aligned, and we'll make sure it'll definitely work. As we're here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show with renowned pro wrestling star, Ronan Brian Aidenson. As I am,
chills every time.
Report, and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. Stay tuned here because we'll be back tomorrow night and all throughout the week on Sportswire Radio. Tomorrow night, we'll be with the Los Lancadores, the LWF, then Lucy Simons of KOW and Odyssey Pro Wrestling. Thursday, we'll be back with GTM World Champion Jack Johnson and more. And Friday, we'll hear from the Asset Stephen Cross, who certainly will respond to those comments from Brian Aidenson, Wildfire Nate Reese, and also, for the first time ever, the CCW Tag Team Champions, the Working Class Militia, and GTM's own The Educators and the Modern Day Mafia. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. If you're on sportnarium.com/player, you'll get it 6:30 p.m., 11:30 UK time, an all-new Pinstripe Chronicles show, and then you'll get some live content from Larry Frank, Frankly Speaking Sports. That guy's a character. If there would be professional wrestling, that guy would be Chris. He's like a Looney Tune. He's like a raving lunatic when it comes to sports, and he's like really nuts. He's like really nuts. That's all I can say. But he'll be on live at some point. But in the meantime, thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager of Sportswire Radio. We're with Brian Aidenson. I will talk with everyone here tomorrow night here live, 7:30 p.m. British Standard Time on all of our channels. Thank you and good night.